All right, welcome to this assignment. We got the Tokyo Olympic basketball winners for this assignment right here, and that's what we're going to be doing. The first thing we're going to need is to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a structure inside of the main function right here, which we already start with. So first up, we're going to have make the variables right here, and then a little bit after that, we'll say we'll go ahead and show the men's winners. Or medalists, I guess, medalists. And then after that, we'll show the women's medalists from the Tokyo Olympics, which I believe were in 2020. Or something like that, whatever. So first up, we need some variables right here. And so the winners from the Tokyo Olympics back in 2020, let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, we got the United States, we got France and Japan, who were, let's see, and this is according to the Olympics.com website. So let's see, in that year, for men's, the USA was the gold winners, silver was France, and bronze was Australia. For the women's, you had USA was gold, silver was Japan, and France was bronze. So what we see here is we got a repeat of US and France for both men's and women's, but the differences are Australia and Japan. So we need 4 different countries. Okay. So to make a variable, of course, we're going to use the word let, and it doesn't matter which country you start with. Let's see. Let's see. We'll just, say USA equals, and you have to type this out, United States of America. And by the way, if you do not capitalize the U, S, and A there, it will mark it incorrect. Okay, the next one, we'll just go the bronze for the men's, which was France. Now you can say France right here, you can capitalize it, you can say France like this. Even the USA, right, up here on line 4, you can just say USA. You can just put U if you'd like to, or France. You could just say FR for France. I'm going to leave that up to you guys, but I'm just going to stick with France on this one, keeping it lowercase because that's good coding etiquette. We don't usually capitalize the first letter of any variables. That includes variables that represent countries like this. Now, of course, when I put France in as the name of the variable or the input for the variable, then I will capitalize that one so it shows up nice and neat. Next up, we'll let, not capital L, but we'll say Oz. Again, just to show that it works, it doesn't matter. And yeah, Australia, I think I spelled that right. Capital A, but again, Oz is known, is kind of a known short nickname for Australia. Oz, but I put AUS, whatever. Again, you can put the full name if you'd like, and then of course the last one, Japan. Again, it's just not a very long name, so I'm just going to keep it as Japan. Okay, so I put all 4 of these in. What I really should have done, and of course I can't really do this in the program that I'm using, but you would run the program to make sure there's no errors. Where the only errors you should end up with right now is in the word let for 4 times on lines 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then the equal signs on 4, 5, 6, and 7 as well. If you have any errors like that, you need to fix them. But now that we have that, let's go ahead and go to line 10 now, because like we said on line 9 for the note, this is where we're going to print out the men's medalists. Okay? So let's see. Let's go ahead and put one line of code that's going to display some text. So again, that's going to be console.log. console.log, all lowercase, open parentheses, quotation marks. And we'll say the men's basketball winners. And I'm putting a colon right there, and I don't need a space after the colon because we're going to put all the winners on the next lines of code. So we're going to have all 3 medalists. So that would include gold, silver, and bronze. And so that's what we're going to need. Console.log, open parentheses, quotation marks, and the gold. We'll say gold, I don't know, gold colon space. Now I put that space in there. Again, you have to code in any spaces if you want them there. And then we'll just put plus, and we know that USA was the gold winners. Now after that, if you want to put punctuation in after that, that's completely up to you. Since it's just a list, I don't think that punctuation there after USA is necessary. If you felt like it was necessary, you have to do plus, quotations, and then whatever punctuation you want. I'm not going to include that in here because, like I said, it's a list, and I don't feel like it's necessary. So men won the gold at the Tokyo Olympics. Next, we're going to go with console.log, and this next one is going to be silver. Now, again, I got my colon, space, quotation marks, space plus space, and France was the silver medalist at the Tokyo Olympics, close parentheses, semicolon. Again, I don't need any punctuation after France because it's just a list of winners. So we're going to give ourselves another line of code here, console.log, parentheses, quotations, and the last one is bronze. Let's see, bronze, colon, space, quotations, plus, and it was Australia that won the bronze at the Tokyo Olympics. Again, no punctuation is necessary right there. Okay, so for the women's, we're going to have to shrink that down just a little bit, but let's go ahead and put in the code there for the women's. Starting on line 16, console.log, sorry, not quotations, but open parentheses, then quotations, and then we'll list the women's basketball winners. Colon, close quotations, close parentheses, semicolon. Next line of code. Well, of course, we're going to list these in order, so we're going to go with console, console.log, console log, parentheses open, open quotations, and again, we're going to just go with gold, colon, space, quotations, plus, and then USA won gold that year for women's, semicolon, enter. Now, of course, you should be running the code after each line of code. You don't put in a bunch of code and then test it out. For example, right now, if I could, I would run the code because I just put in a new line of code. Same with this next one, console, console.log, open parentheses, quotation marks, and the next one is silver, colon, space, quotation marks, plus, and let's see, I think it was Japan was the silver medalist that year for women's. Japan, close parentheses, semicolon. So I just put in another line of code. I would run it if I could. You should run it since you can, and make sure that there are no errors. If there are errors, you've got to figure out where it is. And since you only put one line of code in there, then you can figure out, oh, there's only these many characters to go through, and then you can figure out where the error is. Now, if it's still working, you should look at the format, right? Because if you don't have a space here, you're going to want that space in there. You want things to look pretty so that whoever you're doing this for, or maybe you're creating a video game for in the future, that it's going to look good, and they're going to not be distracted by your poor formatting. Okay, so our last line of code here, console, console.log, open parentheses, open quotation marks, and this one is bronze, colon, space, quotation marks, space plus space, and let's see, I believe, let's go back and check. Yeah, it was France who won bronze at the Japan Tokyo Olympics. Okay, so I put in that last line of code. You should check to make sure that it works. These are the actual winners from the 2020 Tokyo, Japan Olympics. At least that's according to Olympics.com. So hopefully that's correct, but that's what I got. So once you get this all in there, and yeah, this assignment also came pretty empty. So as you find this assignment, pretty much all this stuff that we just put in there, except the notes, is stuff that you have to put in. Now again, it's important that you be able to put these in and understand, oh, I need to use the word let, the code let, in order to use a variable, and then to display a message we need console log with parentheses and quotation marks, and then of course we need to end those together as well. Okay, and don't forget on line 20 right here, line 20 is a big deal because a lot of students somehow when they put this information in there, sometimes this closing fancy bracket gets lost, and then you have an end of code error or something like that, and it's going to cause problems. For example, right here you can see I only have 23 lines of code. Without that closing fancy bracket, it's going to say something like, hey, you've got a terminating error, something like that, and it's going to say line 26 or something like that. So if you end up with an error that says something to that effect, let me see, what does it actually say? Yeah, there it is. It'll say unexpected end of input. So if you get an unexpected end of input error, chances are you misplaced or forgotten to use one of these fancy brackets. And notice again, I took that fancy bracket away, and then as I highlight that one up here on line 2, it's not underlined anymore, but if I put it there, see line 20 is underlined, and you can see it's underlined with line 2 because they do go together. And everything that we put in here from lines 3 to 19 needs to be in between those two fancy brackets, the opening of it on line 2 and the closing of that fancy brackets on line 20. So make sure you have that stuff in there, otherwise you're going to end up with errors, stuff that you don't want, stuff that's going to throw you off, and then you're going to have to go through the code. But as long as you're putting your code in line by line while working within this fancy bracket, you're going to be okay. Put in a line of code, run it. If it works, put in the next line of code. Run it, make sure it works. If there's an error, fix it. If it doesn't work, fix it, right? If it works, then go to the next line of code like I'm showing here. Then I'd go to the next line. Run it, make sure it works. If it works, go to the next line of code. And you continue that way until you get to the end of your code, because then you're guaranteeing that you're not going to have errors. If you put in all this lines of code, what is that? Like 15 lines of code right there, 15, 16 lines of code right there, and then find that you have an error, it may be very difficult to find where the error is. So make sure you're only putting in one line of code, check, make sure it works, then go to the next line of code, check, make sure it works. And since this is a video, of course, you can go back and pause it. You can say, oh, this is a line of code. Check it, pause it, check it, and then, okay, it works. Okay, go to the next line of code. Code it in, write it in, run it, make sure it works. Well, I guess you'd write the code, pause the video, and then run it to make sure it works. If it works, then you continue with the video. Okay, hopefully that helps. But that's this assignment, the Olympic basketball winners. There you go.